This is Rich Fontaine, the author of The Nerd Who Saved the Universe and Destiny on Purpose. And I'm here with the Peace on the Street kids for the book review of The Nerd Who Saved the Universe, a book about self-esteem and becoming your own hero through the eyes of Ernest the Nerd. How we doing, kids?
Good.
And I would love for you guys to introduce yourself. We'll start here and we'll move here.
My name's Athena Hyacinth, and I am 12 years old, and I dance. So, yeah.
My name is Nathaniel Cologne. I'm 9 years old, and I like to play Fortnite.
Fortnite. Don't we all?
Hi, my name is Royal. I'm 11 years old, and I like to do acting, sports, and read books in my spare time.
Very nice, very nice.
Hello, I am Amaya Pena. I am 9 years old, and I love to do in my spare time is play with my friends or talk to them.
Awesome.
I'm Xavier Permanent, and I'm 13 years old, and I like to make new friends and play games.
Play games. Awesome. So I'm here today for you guys to ask me questions about the book. Not every day you get to meet the author of a book that you've read. So take advantage and ask me anything that you like about the book, about myself, and about the entire process. So we can go, we'll start from this end and go this way. So you end it and you start.
So when do you think that you'll be making the movie?
Wow, that's a great question. The best way I can answer that question is when God allows it. When the stars aligned and people really get the energy of what the impact could be for a movie, because a lot of things are absorbed in movie form. And I think the book will become an awesome movie. So I put it out there to the universe, and whenever the universe responds, that's when it will become a movie. And you'll get the first free ticket when it does.
Yes. What inspired you to make this book?
Wow, what inspired me to make this book? That's a two-part question. So, or two-part answer, I should say. I wrote a book called Destiny on Purpose, How to Get What You Really Want Out of Life. And it happened from a change in my own life as I started gaining more information and reading books from other people that inspired me to make changes in my own life. And as I made those changes, as I became, in my eyes, a better person, my life started to change. Things that I can't even explain in positive ways started happening. I met the love of my life. I started driving my dream car, started living in my dream house. And I stepped back one day and asked, how did this happen? And I realized it was from the knowledge that I gained. So I wrote a book called Destiny on Purpose for adults. But then I wondered, kids would really benefit. I wish I knew this stuff when I was a kid. My life probably would have really took off. So I said, how can I write this for kids? And I said I was going to write Destiny on Purpose, kids version. And my wife was like, no, kids won't respond to that if it's just going to be just straight facts. So why not write a story? And I said, okay, what would be a cool story? And I remembered myself when I was in middle school and how awkward it was for me. And I wanted to represent that in a more positive way. How can you take that awkwardness, those awkward years, the time where things are just a little bit weird for you and you're trying to figure yourself out? How can you take that and be inspired to be the best version of yourself, not worry about anyone else, but be uniquely you, and promote that out to the world with no shame, to say, this is me, I love me, how I am, and I want to represent that, and who else would represent that than a nerd? So that kind of concept came to me, and I wanted to represent something that kids could read and be inspired by, to say, hey, I'm uniquely me, I'm proud of being me, and don't let anyone ever make you feel ashamed of that. So, yeah, that's the answer.
So how would you describe Ernest?
Wow, how would I describe Ernest? That is a really good question. Ernest is, I think, a representation of all kids. And why I say that is you get to a place where you know who you are, I feel like, as soon as you hit the earth. So you know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know what you're into, what you're not into. you just kind of have a spirit of yourself that you know who you want to be in life, but then the outside world kind of wants to dictate, oh no, you should be this, or no, you should be that, no, this is cool, no, this is what you should have. And they kind of bombard you with it, and then you start second guessing yourself, and then start to follow trends that have nothing to do with you. That's what I did for many years of my life. I started hanging with people I had no business hanging with, doing things I had no business doing, just because I thought that's who I was supposed to be. And what Ernest is he's kind of ashamed about being himself. He knows he's skinny, he knows he's scrawny, he knows he wears big glasses, and he feels bad about that because other people make him feel bad about it. And what Ernest, through the process of him learning the 3 rules of greatness, he learns to be himself and be proud of it. And so what Ernest to me is a representation of that spirit of being proud of whoever you are. No matter where you come from, no matter your disabilities or inabilities, you're smart, not smart, you're athletic, not athletic, doesn't matter. Who you are, you should be proud of that and just be the best version of that you could possibly be. So that's who Ernest is just a big giant representation of everyone, myself included.
How's your career going?
How is my career going? My career is going well. I think being an author is a roller coaster because it's not like a movie, it's not like a song where you can get a sample. You actually have to sit there and read it. And we live in a generation where reading is not so promoted. There was a time where there wasn't a lot of TV, a lot of internet. All you had was reading. When I was a kid, I didn't have cable growing up. My parents were a little bit not economically sound, so I didn't have cable. Internet didn't exist at the time. And so the only thing we had really was reading. And so I read tons of books, and it really got my mind and my imagination going. So right now, I want to bring that back where there's other things in video games, there's other things in TV, there's other things in the internet that you can find the greatest gems in a book. I met a mentor of mine, and he said, do you know where millionaires keep all their money? I said, a bank. He said, nope.
A safe.
A safe? Nope. He said, in books. He said some of the most wealthiest, most inspirational people in the world write their life experience, all the things they've known to create that wealth, in books, where most people don't read. So that's what they say, they hide it in books, but really they give it out. It's just most people don't read it. So I want to be that person that says, you can find all the gems you've ever wanted in a book. Will Smith once said that there's no problem that anyone ever had that is new, that somebody did not write in a book. So where my career is going is, I think, very well, because I'm here with the Peace on the Street kids, and we're representing this book, and I just love what I do. I love speaking with people.
Where did you get inspiration for having Ernest have this big imagination?
Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. And I read actually Albert Einstein's bio. The theories that he came up with wasn't from something he learned. He figured it out through imagination, the theory of relativity, all these things. And something as massive as building an atomic bomb, to know how to do that was pure imagination. He had to see things differently than what meets the eye. And that's one reason. The other reason for Ernest to have such a big imagination is through imagination you could be whoever you want to be. And so throughout the book, he starts gaining his courage by becoming somebody else other than himself. So he gains his courage by using people he idolized and channeling them, in a sense, to get that bravery. And many of the successful people I've ever read, Robert Kiyosaki, Napoleon Hill. Oh, you do?
Napoleon Hill's the best.
This kid reads Napoleon Hill. Parents, I need all you guys to hear that. He reads Napoleon Hill. All kids should read Napoleon Hill. I mean, all kids. To answer the question, all the successful people that I've idolized, I've kind of channeled them. So when I started speaking, I listened to a lot of Les Brown, a lot of Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, and I saw how they spoke. I saw their confidence. And so for me to gain confidence, I kind of channeled them. I was like, how would Jim approach this talk? Or how would Les approach this talk? And in a sense, I would kind of get their mannerisms and use my imagination to become them in that moment until I was able to get my own courage. And so what Ernest does, he uses that imagination to create something bigger than himself so he doesn't feel so small. And so I think in that way, creating that big imagination is great for everyone, because everything that we have here that we're sitting on, we're recording on, that we're using, even the clothes you're wearing, came from imagination. Everything started with somebody thinking, that'd be cool. I wonder if people could actually talk to each other with a line. That's how the telephone was created. I wonder, can we light something up without using fire? That's how light was created. Is using your imagination is how people invent things and create things that we use in everyday life. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you didn't feel so confident? And why, and how did you handle that?
I guess I'll go.
Sure.
So as a dancer, like in my dance studio, my dance classes, like there's all these very advanced dancers, like girls doing like 100 turns and stuff like that, and aerials and flips, and just like I'm still working on getting my back handspring and aerials and stuff like that. And as a dancer, I'm still working on how to advance myself, and a lot of times I'll see, like, I'll just be like, dang, they're really good and stuff like that. And my dance teacher would always say, like, these kids might be able to go to a dance studio for like 7-8 hours a week, but if you put your mind to it and you keep on practicing by yourself, you could be more successful than they'll ever be.
I love that. Let's give her a round of applause. And it's funny you say that. I was listening to an interview with Kobe Bryant, and he said the same thing. He said when he moved from Italy to Philadelphia, all the kids were into basketball. He was into soccer, but he wanted to play basketball. And so he wasn't that good like the other kids, and they just made fun of him and made him feel small for his skills. And so he would just train relentlessly. So while the kids were out playing or playing video games, doing other things, he would just work on his craft, until now, obviously, he's better than all of the kids that he ever played with. So, that's really, really good. Second question, in reading the book, did you find any relationship between you and Ernest the Nerd? Did you feel any type of comparison, or like you related to him in a way?
I did. I really did. Because when I was in elementary school, I had these 3 people, or 2, that kept on picking on me because of my way and the way I act. I was so upset. So I just kept on telling people, and they said, like, I don't know what to do. So I just went home, felt upset because I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't tell my mom because I don't know. And then afterwards, one of them moved away, and then they felt like lonely and sad, but they felt small. Yeah. So when I came back, they really they got mad and everything. I was like, "Are you okay?" And then when I moved from there, they moved to the same school, but they were like, I was just stop messing with you because everybody else just moved away from me. So I was like, okay, I'll take that.
It kind of fizzled out on its own. That's really cool. And when I was a kid, I kind of had the same type of experience. I was bullied. So I grew up in Waterbury, Connecticut, where it was a little tougher area, where a lot of the kids did not have fathers, did not have good role models, and so especially boys, we had to be the tough guy. So every boy, imagine you're in a bunch of places, nobody's soft, everyone's tough. And so if you come a little bit soft, you're the first direct person they want to see. I was blessed to have my father in my life and my mother. And so I kind of had a little softness in me. I had compassion and everything like that because that's what they instilled in me. And so they would bully me. And I didn't want to tell my dad because I told my dad one time, and he said, okay, let's go see the parent. I said, no, we can't. No. And I was like literally in the car with my hoodie on. I'm like, and he's like, no, let's go to the kid's house. And because it was one of those things where you just didn't snitch, I guess, or you didn't tattletale. And so it was very hard to go through that because you can't say anything to people. But always know there's somebody that you can talk to. And just know within yourself that if you don't feel small, they can never make you feel small. You know what I mean? That's one thing I learned later actually in life, but I learned I only felt small, or I only let them make me feel small because I allowed them to make me feel small. But as long as I feel big, it's like they can't even penetrate. They're like, yeah, you know, this is not even message. It's like, not even realize subconsciously, they're like, we just gonna leave them alone. Because I had that confidence in me where whatever you say doesn't really bother me because I know who I am and I know what I represent. And kids will do that, people in general, just even you'll realize this as adults, they'll try to project their insecurities onto you. So they'll say, if they can't think they could do it, they'll say, oh, well, you can't do it. Jay-Z said this in an interview once that his uncle wanted to be a rapper a long time before he did. And he told him, hey, listen, I'm going to be a rapper. I'm going to be this big time rapper. I'm dropping this album and everything like that. And he's like, he'll never leave the city. You know, that's never going to work. You'll never be these big guys. You'll never be Run DMC. You won't, you know, that's not happens to people like us in Brooklyn. And obviously, Jay-Z is one of the greatest rappers to ever touch a microphone. But he talks about that because he says his uncle had his own failures, so he tried to project that onto him. But the smartest thing he ever did was not listen to it. He says, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my passion. This is what I'm going to do. And he did it, and he did it in the grandest way, just to have that confidence in himself. So thank you for answering that. Cool. So I won't put anybody on the spot, but this is probably a question if you finished the book. Did the ending surprise anyone? Like how the book ended, did anything come as a surprise? Like, wow, I'm really cool how he kind of gained that confidence and defeated the bully.
It was really cool that he that stand up by his next door neighbor that he liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bullies stopped like picking on him, and then they became friends.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. There's people that at first they'll think some way about you until you prove and until you show who you really are. People like it's like a respect. It's like the respect you have for yourself. People just automatically get that respect to you because you respect yourself.
The end inspired me because it reminds me to always be strong and always stay on my confidence level.
Yes, absolutely. That's one thing I've learned in my life later in my life is to always be strong. Because life will never give you anything that you cannot handle. That's one thing I learned. Life will never give you anything you cannot handle. So if it's coming to you, that means you can handle it. You just gotta be strong enough to know that and take it head on. All right, so last question I'll ask. What will you do now in the future after reading the book to feel more confident, to have more self-esteem, to feel better about yourselves?
When I came older, I will present this book to everybody and make it feel like pretend like it was you that got bullied, and then you got standing up, and then you stand up for yourself.
Trust me, if I wanted to be a teacher, I would have said, you must read this book right now. Write a whole summary about it.
That's awesome, man. That humbles me. Thank you.
Finish it by a week.
Yeah, your mom was telling me, and that really humbles me. Thank you for that, man. I'm very long-winded, but I'm very descriptive in my writing. I like to paint a picture. So if I say he's in a room, I fully describe the room so you really, the reader can see it. So I think of it in movie form, right? I see everything in movie form. So when I write it, I want the audience to be able to, oh yeah, I see exactly where he is. I see exactly where he is. Especially the fantasy part. I want you really to get into like, man, he's jumping off a waterfall. That's cool. So I really want you to see it. So it's a little thick, but it's not hard to read or anything like that. Yeah. What else would you guys do to build self-esteem within yourselves moving forward?
I'll try to put myself out there and try to tell my first period teacher and see if she'll read the book to the class and everything, and then we'll try to make a test or
a test? We'll make it a quiz, not a test. We're testing scares people. We'll call it a pop quiz. And last but never least,
It will inspire me to always be strong and help people.
Yes. I always notice the more you help others, this is something that my mentor Les Brown taught me, is if you have a problem, help somebody else solve a problem, and usually your problem gets solved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're ever facing like, man, I don't know what to do, go out and help somebody else, and usually just through the law of compensation, that energy just comes back to you. And so always just know that if you're ever here at down spot, just do something for somebody else, and things happen. People said, hey, I'm gonna get your book in school. So stuff like that happens for you. I do have a pop quiz question. See if you read the book. Out of the three, have courage, love the process, and believe in yourself. Which one is your favorite?
Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe in yourself.
Actually, I'm gonna say love the process because I'm not sure where I heard it from, but somebody said it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
That's what it says so.
Yeah. We get on that one. Believe in yourself is my personal favorite as well. But what took me the longest to appreciate in my own personal life was love the process. That it is an ongoing thing. It's never ending. It's never ending. So to better yourself is always an infinite process. You can always better your best. And that took me a while because I'm like, man, I've done the work. I got to do more work. But once you start to love the process, you'll realize that it's good. It's always evolving. You're always evolving yourself. And before you know, you start becoming better. And then you can teach other people, hey, like, how did you get from 0 to 60? How did you come from poverty to abundance? And then you can teach people, hey, it's a process. And it's still a process. There's people that had $1 million, completely bankrupt. But were able to do it again, get that millions in within a year, because they knew the process. It wasn't like, oh, woe is me, I lost the money. It was, well, I guess we're doing this again. So that process is when you could love that, you're unstoppable. There's nothing in your way. So I appreciate you kids. Thank you again. Give the people your names and shout outs again.
My name's Athena Hyacinth, and I would like to shout out everybody who believes in me every day.
Ooh. My name?
My name is Athena Kumar. I'm 9 years old, and I want to give a shout out to my dad.
Yeah, daddy. Big shout out to all the dads out there, to being fathers. That's a beautiful thing.
My name is Royal, and I would like to shout out to my mom, my parents, and everybody that supports me.
Yeah, mom. Hey, shout out to all the moms out there. It's a beautiful thing.
Hi, I'm Maya Pena, and I want to give a shout out to my whole entire family for supporting me and always being there for me.
Yes. A shout out to supportive families. Always support your kids' dreams, no matter how weird it may sound. When I wanted to be an author since I was 8 years old. My dad told me there's no money in being a writer. So that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing it for such a long time. But everything in my bones told me this is what you're here to do. So that's why I'm back doing it. So support. If your kids say, hey, I want to learn about cockroaches, I want to be an expert on roaches, say, hey man, have at it, because you never know. There's people that gain careers, major careers, on learning insects and being botanists and learning about plants and birds. Biologists. There's something in them that's telling them to do something that you guys got to get out of the way and allow them to do what they're born to do. And lastly but not least,
Hi, my name is Xavier Permanan, and
name, age, shout-outs.
Oh, and I like to shout out to my mom for bringing me here and everyone else that's watching.
Shout out to moms for bringing them here. Shout out to all the moms that have cars that can drive to places like this. Hey, I thank everyone for taking your time for watching this. This means a whole lot to me. I'm very humbled by it. This book meant the world to me to write because I knew what it represented. And it's fun. It's a place where kids can expand their own imagination while watching, some kid expand his own. And I think books is the way to prosperity. of every millionaire, every successful person I've ever spoken to has told me, Rich, if you want to be successful, leaders are readers. So the more you can represent reading, not just a textbook, not just what they ask you to read for fun. I used to read Goosebumps books. I used to read, see what I mean? I used to read The Outsiders. My very first book that got me into reading was S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders. And that book changed my entire perspective about reading, because in the book was somebody that represented me. I grew up in a rough area, and when I saw, like, gangs and people fighting and stuff, I was like, whoa, what is this book about? This is strange. It was the first time I saw somebody representing what I was going to. Because if you ever read the book Pony Boy, he didn't like fighting. He didn't like getting into those scuffles. He didn't like being in the gang. But he just found himself in that life. And I kind of related to that. Like, I didn't want to fist fight. I didn't want to get into troubles. But I found myself in that life. And so having somebody to relate to kind of talk to in a sense, changed my life. So get your kids to read, even if it's not this book, any book, a picture book, a pop-up book. It does not matter to me as long as you got them in that process of reading and educating and expanding their minds. So again, this is Rich Fontaine of The Power of Self-Entertainment, the author of Destiny on Purpose, The Nerd Who Saved the Universe, which you can find directly on Amazon and Audible and on my website. Check out richfontaine.com, on social media outlooks. This was a great representation. Thank you, Peace on the Streets. Thank you, Mimi. Thank you, parents. It was awesome. Appreciate it. Namaste.
Moved from there, they moved to the same school, but they were like, I was just stop messing with you because everybody else just moved away from me. So I was like, okay,